Radio Raheem here with the chairman, Top Rank Bob Arum. Always a pleasure, sir. Putting on another tremendous card. You've got Postal, you've got Crawford facing each other in their first pay-per-view. Now, you talked from the podium about it being a super stacked undercard. Do you feel like that support is necessary to sell the pay-per-view, or are these guys able to sell it on their own and this is just a bonus?
No, I think people are careful of how they spend money, and even though everybody knows, follows boxing, that Crawford and Postal is an excellent matchup, I mean, to give them other great fights, which we have on this program, makes them even more willing to buy the pay-per-view. And what we're selling is not only the title fight, but it's selling a whole night of watching great boxing, because some people buy the pay-per-view and just watch the main event. You know, I've done that myself. You know, there's a party, everybody has a good time, then the main event goes on and you watch it. But I think it's important for boxing that people watch good fights for the entire evening. And so as these guys go on in their career, they're known and people follow them.
Let me just... You've got a global card. I mean, no one's really talking about this, but I notice from many regions, we got China, Russia, obviously America, Mexico, all on the same card. When you put this card together, did that just happen by coincidence, or was that something that you put your mind to?
Boxing has become a global sport. It's a sport that's understood by people all over the world. And to do the right thing by boxing, to do the right thing by our company, we have to promote it as a global sport. Nobody questions the fact that in the French Open or Wimbledon, you have all these tennis players coming from 30, 40, 50 different countries. I mean, that's the way the world is now. And boxing is and should be the same.
We know Zhao Shiming has a huge following in China. Hell, they got a museum to him over there. I've seen it. When you put all these guys on the card, which region, just, you know, for conversation's sake, do you think is going to buy the most pay-per-view?
Well, it's pay-per-view. You have to understand, if we do a fight like July 23rd in the United States, it starts in the late afternoon into the evening, which means that in Asia, it's Sunday morning. So it's very difficult to do pay-per-view on a Sunday morning. So in Asia, we will show all of these fights, including Ik Yang's fight with Lenny Z, on national television in China. They'll see the whole fight. They'll see all these fighters, Hispanics, Ukrainians, African Americans, and they'll appreciate, hopefully, boxing by seeing all these fighters, and we'll get a terrific rating. I think most of them will be interested in the event because of the Chinese fighter. Same thing will take place June 11th in New York when Zhao Shiming is on the card. But that's the way of the world, and it's an international, global business, and that's how boxing will prosper in the future.
You know, you've got a lot of news out there. The Pacquiao-Mayweather saga continues probably as long as these guys are alive. People will be talking about this matchup. You've made some news talking about Mayweather coming over to Manila, another thriller in Manila to challenge Manny Pacquiao. Is that just for fun, or is that something that you think you could actually sell Mayweather on?
I don't think I would have any chance whatsoever to sell Mayweather on coming to Manila to fight Manny Pacquiao. But obviously I did it for fun.
Now, when it comes to the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight, the original, obviously only, it appears Showtime is unhappy with Bob Arum and Top Rank. They've been in the news filing lawsuits. What is that about from your perspective? And did it surprise you that they came at you that way?
Well, we had a dispute with them, our lawyers and their lawyers, as to whether we were responsible to pay their legal fees in the class action case. That's a legal dispute, and they talked to me about it, and I said, look, guys, our lawyers and your lawyers disagree on this, so let's arrive at a number and we'll settle it. And while I'm talking to them about settling it, they hit me with a lawsuit. So, again, that's up to them. As far as I'm concerned, this is something that should be settled between the two of us without the intervention of a court.
And again, you've been Meyer, being in business. You've told me so many times that it's this boxing game is all about business, and you've managed to settle your dispute with Al Haymon and PBC. Without going into the details of how those terms, what really people are interested in is, does that mean that there's a way for now PBC and Top Rank Al Haymon, Bob Arum to work together to put some fights together and really bury the hatchet?
Well, we certainly hope that to be the case. I think in talking with Al Haymon, he wants that to be the case, and we do. So hopefully we'll be able to put some good fights together, yeah.
Is there anything in mind, any particular matchup that you feel is imminent that could happen?
I think that would be a betrayal on my part if while we were talking about matchups, I shut my mouth off about him, because that put pressure on him and his fighters, and I don't think that's the way to get fights to happen.
One fight that people are talking about possibly happening is Triple G and Ramirez. That was up here today. Is that a fight that's been discussed between the two promotions? And what are your thoughts on a matchup like that?
I've had a number of conversations with Tom Loeffler about that fight. I think if Triple G can't get Canelo for the fall, that he'll fight somebody else, and in which case we'll make another fight for Zurdo Ramirez if he wins in July. And then hopefully sometime early next year we can match the two fighters together, because I know Ramirez and his people want to fight Triple G, and according to Loeffler, Abel Sanchez and Triple G look forward to that challenge.
And just in theory, and lastly, Bob, people are now debating Triple G, should he stay at middleweight and force everybody to fight at 160? Is that fair? Or is it something that fighters have to do, ultimately step up in weight, move weight classes to be legitimate, kings in this sport?
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. In other words, Triple G can retain his middleweight titles, fight Zurdo Ramirez for the 168-pound title. Two things can happen. He can win or he can lose. If he wins, then he'll decide maybe to give up the 168-pound title, come back down to middleweight. If he loses, it's decided for him. So, again, these things have a way of sorting themselves out, and just because he goes up to 168 to fight Zurdo Ramirez doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to go back down and fight a middleweight, whether it's Canelo Alvarez or somebody else at 160.
If you were handling Canelo Alvarez, what would you do with him next?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't have allowed him to do what he did. And what he did was, for no reason after his fight, maybe he got carried away, to have Triple G come in the ring and to make all of these statements that he would do it at 160. And, better if he had said, for example, if I was handling him, look, Triple G is a great fighter. I'm not used to fighting at 160 because even with Cotto, he's not a 160-pound fighter. So I want to try out in 1 or 2 fights the 160-pound division. Let me fight Lemieux. Let me fight somebody else in the middleweight division. And if I feel I can handle the added weight, why not fighting, Triple G, next? That puts it off. It's a reasonable excuse. Everybody would say, hey, the guy is making sense. Instead of what he did was, in effect, accept the challenge. it's almost like Trump, saying, hey, I want to debate Bernie Sanders, and then when it becomes obvious that that can happen, he pulls back, and now they say it's Donald Ducks, you know? So, you know, you leave yourself open for that criticism.
I keep saying lastly, but this is really it. You just keep bringing things to mind. Cotto Marquez, you know, he said he wanted Cotto. He's called him out, essentially. It seemed like the fight was maybe in the works. Obviously, he says he's got some injury. Is that fight really happening, and how bad does Marquez want Cotto? Is that like...
I think the real problem is with both Cotto and Marquez that, yeah, they would want to fight each other. Cotto thinks it's an easy fight because Marquez is getting a little long in the tooth, but he's a terrific fighter, and he feels he has ways to beat Cotto. The real problem is they've been spoiled, both of them. Cotto by getting these real tremendous purses. Marquez made all this money fighting Manny, and so to get them to fight with modest guarantees against the percentage is almost impossible, because they're looking at the pay-per-view business at a time when it's booming, and believe me, over the last couple of years it hasn't been.
Radio Raheem with the chairman, breaking down the business and the sport of boxing. I always appreciate the time. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, sir.
Pleasure.
Bob Arum.